Dr. Bra's mic is mute, so we need to hear him. Hi, Gorit. Good to see you. It's mute again. Okay, got it.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the country Georgia is located right between Russia, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, right around in this region between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. That's the reason why I gave the title of the presentation, Georgia, a country at the crossroads, is Georgia is literally at the crossroads between the US, between the East and the West, between Asia and Europe. If you look at the map closely, if you fly from Iran, Tehran to Moscow, you will most likely fly over Georgian space. If you fly from New Delhi or Beijing all the way to France or Spain, you will be flying over Georgian territory. So it's really strategically located geographically. So a little bit detail on where is Georgia. Georgia is located on the crossroads between Europe and Asia. It lies at the eastern end of the Black Sea, Turkey and Armenia to the south, Azerbaijan to the east, and Russia to the north over the Caucasus Mountains. My visit happened to be a private consulting assignment hosted by a company called Super Almond through a contract through USAID, situated USAID office in Tbilisi, Georgia. Here in the picture, you can see my host, Vakhtang Gogaladze, and his wife, she's not in the picture, his wife, Katerina Bobresna. They were really great hosts. And at the end of my trip, and I will present my case on why, being a Punjabi, I was so much interested in presenting about Georgia. Because going to Georgia was like going back to my roots, and I will present my case on why that was the case. So at the end of my trip, I was able to prove to my host Vakhtang that we are distant cousins, maybe separated by just maybe 2,500 years ago. Let's go back to history. History is my favorite subject, human migration. It's amazing on how we moved about. So this is the map from about 100 BC, just a few years ago. Eurasia looked like this. A Roman Empire ruled over much of Europe. And look at this great kingdom called Scythia. And this place on the southern edge of the western Scythia, this is where Georgia is. This is the Caucasus Mountains. And look where Scythians spread. This is India. India was ruled by Middle Kingdoms. So this is Punjab, the eastern, southeastern end of the Scythian kingdom. About 1,500 years ago, history tells us that the Scythians disappeared mysteriously. Where did the Scythians go? We have a National Geographic cover story on that about 20 years ago. You can go to that. So the Scythians disappeared overnight. They were nomadic herders on the horsebacks, and many of them settled in what is called present-day Punjab. So much so that I was able to track, when I was talking to my hosts and other people, I was able to track a tribe name of Punjab, a tribe called Gujar, and there is a tribe in Georgia and northern Turkey called Gozar, and they happen to be from the same roots. So the point that I'm making is we're all one human family. Okay, let's get back to Georgia. This is Tbilisi, their capital city. It is like a bowl, an amphitheater, because it's a narrow, long city settled in a valley between two mountain ranges. Two mountain ranges, and the mountains are on the three sides of the city. So there is so much difference in elevation at the bottom, close to the river, and then as you go up and up and up, there are neighborhoods at the top of the mountains as well. It's a beautiful city. This city was located, it's on the banks of Kura River. In local Georgian language, it's called Matkwari. This city is strategically located between Asia and Europe, and it was along the ancient Silk Route. Tbilisi means warm location. Back in those days, King Vakhtang, the same name as my host's name, King Vakhtang actually on one of his endeavors, he found sulfuric hot springs in this area, and they were really warm, and he created some baths over there and decided to make a city. And eventually it came out to be the capital of Georgia. Georgia has really rich history. It has 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is the most World Heritage Sites that any country in that region has. Other than these 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, there are 14 other sites of historical importance within Georgia that are in the tentative list of the UNESCO sites. They might someday as well be included into the main list of the World Heritage Sites. On the left side, it's Svetskovoly Cathedral in Matsketa. On the right side, I'm just standing by these baths, the ancient sulfuric hot baths. These days, you can also rent one of these and then just go down and then take a warm bath. Gilati Monastery is another World Heritage Site. Upper Svaneti, an ancient site. And then most recently, these forests and wetlands, Kolchik forests and wetlands, this is a natural site that was added to the list. So these pictures tell us that Georgia has great biodiversity, great history, great culture. Let's explore more. Matsketa. Matsketa is right outside, a few miles outside the current capital of Tbilisi. And this was the ancient capital city. This is the cathedral that I visited. It is, I believe it's about 1700 years old. And Matsketa means a place where 2 rivers meet. So there's one of them is Matkwari River, another is, I forgot the name of. So they meet at this place, and then the joined river flows through the city of Tbilisi. Another picture from the city of Matsketa. Some fun facts. Geographical area of the country of Georgia is less than half of the area of the US state of Georgia. So it has 9 regions and 2 autonomous republics. Georgia has 25,000 rivers in this territory. They have 12 different climate types and 49 different types of soils. And they are so much divided in their climate that you can draw a line across the center here in the region of Shida-Kartli, where east of this is dry. It has a continental influence from the northern and the eastern sides. It's dry and very little rain and hot. Over to the west side, it's just like Florida, humid, tropical, a lot of rains. Tourism. This is Batumi. Batumi is their Las Vegas. It's a really tourist city. It is on the banks of, it's on the coast of Black Sea, close to Turkey. And this is very famous for its casinos, hotels, and nice beaches. Another picture from Batumi. This is Batumi from the waters of Black Sea. This is the ancient Nekresi monastery in Alazani Valley. Another really beautiful place in eastern Georgia, just south of the Caucasus Mountains, is Alazani Valley, where Georgia's longest river, Alazani River, flows. And that river flows out to Azerbaijan. And along that river, there are fertile plains, flatlands that grow a lot of wheat. So these are what the eastern regions look like. This is a picture from the Caucasus Mountains up in the north. I was lucky that I found a group of Punjabi Sikh farmers settled in Alazani Valley. They farm wheat in this valley. You can see Alazani Valley between this city of Signagi and the Caucasus Mountains right by the Alazani River. This whole valley, it's dominated by migrant farmers from Punjab region of India. And they took me to the hilltop town of Signagi, and we sat at the restaurant. It was beautiful. Okay, let's go to the agriculture. Georgia grows so many different crops. The major ones are wheat. They are wheat eating culture, bread eating culture. They grow so much wheat. They don't have really high population, but they still have to import wheat. They eat bread a couple of times a day, and they have to eat that bread. I will show you that bread. And it was delicious. So they grow grapes. We'll talk about grapes a little bit more. Walnuts, almonds, tree fruits, hazelnuts, pistachios, they're a new crop. Citrus, melons and other vegetables, and potatoes. Georgia is rich in agricultural tradition, which is an integral part of its history. More than 43% of the whole territory of Georgia is designated as agricultural land, and the other 43% of the area is covered with forest. The fertile valleys of Georgia are believed to be the source of the world's first cultivated grapevines and Neolithic wine production over 8,000 years ago. It's very diverse in terms of agriculture and climatic zones. Georgia, because of its location, is a part of trade agreements with European Union, Turkey, Asia, and former Soviet countries. I was at this research station. I have the name on the next slide, probably. And this research station had about 400 grape varieties collected all over from Georgia. And they displayed their wines on a huge map of Georgia there. So they are producing wines for 8,000 years now. The training program, this was the indoors training program. I spent 3 days indoors and 3-4 days outside in the fields, providing training to the growers and industry people. So here is Dr. Zviad Bobokashvili. He is a plant breeder situated at Jaguara Research Station, right outside Matsketa. And this is his grape variety collection that we are standing in. The climate it's in some ways, it's similar to what we have in California. The temperatures in the plains, the summer average is around 70 degrees Fahrenheit and winter average is around 38 degrees Fahrenheit. When I was there in July, during the first week of July, the temperatures in Tbilisi got to 97 degrees Fahrenheit maximum. And we have had rains, light rain showers every single night. Eastern Georgia has continental climate, as I mentioned before, with some arid zones, getting as little as 10 to 11 inches of rain annually, which is the average that Fresno gets. The western part of port of Batumi on the Black Sea gets 98 inches of rain. Georgia has great biodiversity, having thousands of species of plants, animals, fungi, invertebrates, and other creatures. These are some of the pictures from my trip. Here on the left, I am with a technician. He is an agronomist, a young agronomist, showing me a walnut tree. It was damaged by frost. Dr. Bobokashvili showing me his collection of tree fruits and nuts, his pomegranates, goji berries. They are bringing some new crops in the country to experiment. These are some more pictures. We are doing some pruning on an almond tree. This is an almond tree from their collection. These are some peach trees. And I'm standing in an almond orchard in one of their regions. This is with all my trainees at Udabno Farm. This is the largest almond farm in Georgia. They are growing about, I think, 2,500 hectares now and expanding. Okay, I titled this slide Back to the Roots because of my original reasoning that I gave from the history. Here I am with a Punjabi Sikh farmer in Georgia, Mr. Kapoor. He is the wheat king. He has a few thousand hectares of wheat close to the Azerbaijan border. And him and his uncle also own the biggest steel plant in Georgia. People and food. 83.4% of the population practices Eastern Orthodox Christianity. The word Georgia came from a Greek word meaning tillers of the land. So agriculture is rooted in their history. Georgia has a lot of ancient churches and monasteries. At one time, the culture also got Persian influences. They have very rich cultural history. And let's talk about Georgian cuisine. Georgian cuisine has Mediterranean and Caucasian influences. So I made this slide with the title People and Food, but then I thought actually food deserves its own slide. So this is my host's table on 4th of July. He said, let's celebrate America's Independence Day. So he cooked this bread and a couple of other Georgian dishes. One slide was not enough, so I actually put some more. This is the bread. This is khachapuri. If you visit Georgia, you have to have khachapuri. This is a bread with some cheese sprinkled on it and some egg, and it's really heavy. You would want to just take a nap after eating this. And these are also cornbreads, and underneath this, it's the bean soup. So they are food-loving people, like I guess everybody is. At least I am a big foodie, so I enjoyed the food over there. The last slide, linguistic landscape. I'm really interested in languages and cultures, and I'm particularly conscious about my own language, the Punjabi language, the way people are losing and people don't take pride in their languages. In Georgia, what I saw in the linguistic landscape is that every single food joint or every single store in the mall, even international brands, they had their logos designed in Georgian language. So this is something that I think it's really, it conveys the meaning that people are really proud to use their own language. They love it. So Subway, Wendy's, Dunkin' Donuts, and all the clothes brands, all the brands, even the international brands and companies. So these are the influences, or these are the impressions that I took from Georgia. Now, this is actually my last slide of the presentation about the opportunities. Now, I'm in constant touch with US Aid Office in Tbilisi, and they were really interested in, I told them about the study abroad program that Fresno State has, and they were really interested in bringing a group of students. So I'm applying for a study abroad program for the next year to take a group of students to Georgia to explore Georgian agriculture, history, culture, heritage sites, all of that. So most likely in the winter intersession. So that is still in the works, but I'm hoping to get that grant soon. There are a lot of ag internships or jobs available in the agriculture industry, because the agriculture industry, particularly in the nut crops like almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and other nuts like hazelnuts, they are expanding rapidly. A lot of international companies are buying land in Georgia and growing these crops. So there are a lot of job opportunities, especially for agricultural students. It's a great summer vacation spot. They don't require visas for US citizens or permanent residents. You can just buy a ticket, but these days you have to have your COVID vaccination proof at the port of entry, so they will let you in. With that, I thank you all. I wanted to thank my host, Vakhtang, and his wife, Katerina. I would also like to thank the US Aid Office in Tbilisi, especially Levon Kaviriani. He led this effort. And a special thanks to Marcella and the ICH team. Thank you very much. Georgian, they call it Georgian.
Just so the student people could hear, can you please raise your hand if you have any questions, and we would take the mic for you, just so both groups are able to hear the questions. And okay, a question.
I have a question, and then also I'll tell you about my experience 20 years ago. More in the Russian area. I was sent over there for seed, and while we were having a meeting, rain seed, etc. And the Russian people kept passing off number 3 grain as number one. And they just went on, and finally I said no. And the group got really quiet. The man got up, and that night he came to my hotel room and he started yelling and screaming at me that all we Americans do is go over there, get their babies and this and that. The very next day, he comes back and he said, "You were right." And if they have a little power in the Russian area, this northern there, it's different. But people are people. The real ones is very, very special. And it only got to the tip of Georgia would be different. Just very nice. And the question for you, did you tell them about sex on the kitchen table?
What is that? The book.
It's a book.
Right. No, I don't know if I mentioned, but I didn't.
Want to read it.
Yeah. I think did I recommend that book to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it.
Right. No, I did not. Yeah, it's really great book.
Very good.
Okay, any more questions?
I think there's one.
Okay,
Hi, Guri.
they're
Can you
on
hear
the
me?
chat.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Guri. Thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. And sorry. How long did you stay there?
My trip was just for like 10, 11 days.
Oh, I just was wondering if during the time you were there, I am in public health and I am always curious about the COVID-19 situation. How you observe? Did you hear any information about COVID-19 over there?
Yeah, COVID-19 situation was over there. It was unfolding, like, the waves come and go. So my trip was really focused on work. I would actually get out of my hotel room at 7 and I will come back at 7 in the evening. So all I did was interact and travel with my host or deliver lectures in a room like this with my mask on. So I was really protected. And then we did some field trips, but people were getting vaccinated at that time there. So their vaccination drives were starting, but I did not see a grim situation or anything when I was there.
Thank you, Guri. Very interesting presentation.
So other questions? There are no questions.
I have a question. How easy, like the flight there, was it? Did you have to make a bunch of connections? How easy was it to get there?
The flight was really, it was easy. I mean, I went from LA to, I went on Qatar Airways to Doha, from LA to Doha, and from Doha, Tbilisi is only 4 hours flight. So LA to Doha was about 14 hours flight.
And how many cities were you there? How many cities did you visit? Because you mentioned quite a few.
Yeah, I did not, I could not visit Batumi because it's far on the west side. But I visited the smaller cities and towns other than Tbilisi. I stayed in Tbilisi, but everywhere in Georgia, you can actually make a one-day trip because it's so small. So I visited the town of Siganagi. There's Odabno Monastery. So there are a couple of smaller cities, towns that I visited. But the biggest one, of course, was the Tbilisi and Matsketa, the ancient city.
Sorry, one more question. So if someone was thinking about traveling there, what would be like the top couple of tips that you would give them?
Okay. So number one, it depends. The season I visited there was summer. So I would say summer is a comfortable season. So if you are planning to visit during the summer, I would prefer to travel up in the mountains a little bit more than to go on the east side. And that's one thing. The other thing is there are 2 territories in Georgia which are like disturbed territories because of the conflict with Russia. One is northern Ossetia and the another is Abkhazia. So other than that, those territories, they are far away from these places. Other than that, it's a really peaceful country. So I would say that, make good connections. If you have a host there, it will be really easy to navigate, and you can explore more, and then plan on a trip to the east and west of the country, because I could only do east half. Next year, I'm probably going to go there again on another assignment. So then I will probably go to the west. So take enough time that you can explore, because east side, if you go to only the dry and less humid sites, you might have a different impression, whereas the western half is totally different. So, but these are the things that I would say. I mean, it's really peaceful country. It's not like because of COVID, the Department of State might have some kind of advisories, but other than that, the law and order situation, it's really good. They're really progressive people. Over the last 20 years, after they got separated from the USSR 30 years ago, they had civil war, but they learned a lot from that civil war, and they are really making strides and making a developed nation. Yeah, but good question. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you did a lot of agriculture and that's your main research, and we know that we in Fresno, the Central Valley, it's about agriculture. So what is the comparison between in the Central Valley and Georgia?
In Georgia, okay. Yeah, it's in the Central Valley. In the whole California or in the US, we have technology, we have science backing the agriculture, and we have a great extension system, the cooperative extension system, where the universities actually go to the field and help the farmers. The great information flow that we have, and that's why we lead in agriculture. Over there, you have great soils, productive soils, virgin soils, where nothing has been grown for thousands of years. So you can grow great crops, you can experiment, but there is no support from the government. Their government is mostly going private, so they do not have any public university doing agriculture. There's only one university that has agriculture division, and that's a private university. So they do not have any government-funded cooperative extension system. And that was the main reason that they invited me to help them set up their system like a cooperative extension system that could help with the flow of information. So comparing it to California agriculture, I can say that they are still learning on the ways how to produce the crops better. But they're doing well in wheat. They grow dryland wheat, rain-fed wheat. They don't have great irrigation systems because they have so much variation in elevation. Everywhere you go, you will have to go over the hilltops, or there are so many mountains and other regions. So they don't have a well-developed agriculture systems or network of canals, but they have rivers, 25,000 rivers. So they have water, but they cannot get that water up to the crops. So they grow the wheat, leave it to the rain, and harvest if enough rains fall. So that's how they do their agriculture. So they're not really technologically advanced, but they have great potential. That's how I will put it. An immigrant farmer bought a couple of thousand hectares of land right by the southern border, where a river flows through. The river, I think it's the river Kura, that goes through Tbilisi. It's one of their biggest rivers. It flows through his property. And he went to the government, and the government gave him 50 years license to take as much water he wants from the river. And going from California, I was like, wow, that's really great.
Rishad, you have a question?
Yeah, great presentation, Gurit. I love seeing those photographs. I was fascinated to learn that you met Punjabi farmers in Georgia of all places. And I'm wondering if you have a sense of how those farmers immigrated from India to Georgia. I know in the past you said that we've got some connections, but in modern times, how did Indian farmers end up in Georgia?
How they got there? Yeah, it's an interesting story. And by the way, when I mentioned the history, we have been moving around for years. And probably there's a joke in India that Punjabi people are everywhere. They say that when Neil Armstrong went to the moon, there was a Punjabi person sitting already there greeting him. So in Georgia, what happened is like around 15 years ago, the Georgian territory, the government of Georgia opened their borders to farmers. They wanted their people, the Georgian people, they are farmers, but they have a different lifestyle. In Europe, they don't have a very hectic lifestyle. They're easy on their lives. So they're relaxing pretty much. They stay on their land, farm whatever they could, feed their family, and they're happy. So the government wanted to develop the land, so they wanted to import farmers. And Punjabi people got this opportunity, and they got and bought their land. They brought their families, not their families, but they brought their mostly male members to do the farming. Now they had their own issues because the government changed, and now the government is no longer supporting them to get their visas like permanent. So they're hanging them by the thread. So they are still farming. They're farming the biggest tract of land in the Alazani Valley. So most of them now are seasonal. Some of them, they learned the language. They speak fluent Georgian and fluent English and fluent Punjabi. So that's the first thing that they told me that they do when they came to Georgia. They learned the language. So now they're interacting with the local workers and people. They bought some tractor agencies and other businesses, mostly the farms. They're growing the wheat. But now nobody can come other than them. So they just get their permanent workers from India or somewhere else during the wheat harvesting season. So they are a small group. And I was really interested in their story, so I just happened to find a contact. Yeah. Please, great questions. So I'm really enjoying the.
Sorry, can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just wondering, are Georgians open to tourism from the West? Do they want people from the West coming there, or do you think they're more of a closed country?
No, they're not. Actually, I have the impression that they are open. They're great people. They told me the very first day in the USAID office, they told me that the first thing that they do is that beware of Georgian food and wine, because the Georgian people would want to feed you in the morning, lunch, evening. They would want to have you drink this wine, drink that wine. And they said, you are on our assignment. We don't want you to get too much drunk and not be able to present, because that's how Georgians are. So I take that as a compliment on the Georgian people's hospitality. And I saw a lot of people from a lot of different countries in Tbilisi, especially because it's so approachable from Iran, so approachable from India and China, and other like Turkey. So a lot of people from there, as well as from Ukraine and Europe. So it is really a tourist hub these days. It's really a lot of interest in tourism over there.
This has to do with education.
Okay.
We're all teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have primary, secondary, high school, same way as they do here in the United States?
I did not get into the details.
Would you, I'm sorry, would you repeat the question before you answer?
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you. Yes, so the question is that in the education system, do they have the school system just like the US like they have primary, then middle school, high school, and the university. From my host story, Waco told me that he went to a school he graduated from high school in Tbilisi, and from high school he went to a junior college, and then he had to go to Germany because the Civil War came in 1991 or so. So everything was upside down. So I believe that the school system is just like the US, but we were talking when we went far away to the countryside, there was really small villages and towns, and I asked him about where are the education, where are the schools that they go to, and he said that there are some local schools. Every village doesn't have them, but they can travel to a nearby school. But there are villages that you can see that you would wonder that no one lives there, but there are people, like 200 people living in a small village on a hillside, and then a few miles later, there's another small village. So there are clusters of inhabitants, but they have their schools. Now, one thing that he told me that I raised this question in a different way. I asked Waco, that do you think they're able to produce good people like entrepreneurs or businessmen or great scientists or educationists in these villages, or do you think everybody goes to Tbilisi to get education for their kids? And he mentioned a couple of names, some great artists, some movie people, some singers, some great businessmen. He said, and the current prime minister of Georgia, he is from a far away village in a really rural area. So that speaks about that they have substantial support in that system.
I would like to ask, if Fresno State students study abroad in Georgia, what might be a few eye-opening experience for them?
Okay, one of the good experiences will be the grape cultivation and the winemaking, because they have mastered that art, right? So that is one thing. Another is something that was eye-opening for me as a horticulturist was there are so many challenging places. Even at one place, you have so many challenges. There is no place that is quite straight and plain and simple. Like we grow almonds in Kerman, we grow almonds in Selma, or we grow raisins in Selma, right? So we have a frost sometimes, but no big issues other than water. Over there, they had really high winds. The one that we got 2 weeks ago, they have every day. And their temperature swings are so great that it's hard to keep up with what you want to do with your crop and how you want to protect your crop. Some places have so much salinity, some places are so dry. So there is so much variability in climate, so much variability in soils, that the students can actually learn about those challenges and how to work around those challenges. That is one experience. Other than that, I think something that we sometimes miss in here, the angle of history. They will take you to a place that was built 2,000 years ago, and they will talk about it, and you can see through all those years, all these ages, how the history goes and how people get transformed and how the cultures interact. So that rich cultural heritage is something that will give a real good exposure to the students. Thank you.
Rishad, you still have your hand up. Do you have another question?
Sorry, no. I'll take my hand down.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, so thank you, Dr. Farrar. I would really want to appreciate you with our traditional Magan certificate for making time to be here today. We know that faculty have a busy schedule teaching our students, so we really appreciate you being here. So it's a tradition of coffee hour to take a picture. So if you mind standing in the front, and then the ones in Zoom, can you open your cameras if you want to be in the picture? So if you could be over here.
Okay.
Do you guys want to join us for the picture? Yeah. So give us a second for our audience to get to the front for the picture. It's not, if you don't, no? Okay. So face Mateo.
If I say hi to those in person, can they hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I miss my old friends.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
everyone
see
for
you
joining
all
us today.
regularly every Tuesday.
See you next month.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully, we have a full schedule that I will be emailing you this Friday, so stay tuned for all the 4 new presentations for November. Also, November is a very special month for international education. We will be celebrating International Education Week, so stay tuned for all the events that are coming up, and see you next week. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Carol.